With reports that the first group of migrants from the caravan has reached Tijuana, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has stepped up security, closing 3 northbound vehicle lanes in San Ysidro and 1 lane in Otay Mesa. The agency says it's in, quote, preparation for the migrant caravan and the potential safety and security risks that it could cause.
Capabilities the military had to harden the border.
In an earlier press conference, CBP Chief Patrol Agent Rodney Scott warned migrants about illegally crossing.
The job of the United States Border Patrol is to make sure that nobody comes into our home, into this nation, without coming through the front door. And we don't discriminate. Anybody that jumps the border fence, that crosses between the ports of entry, will be arrested and they will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. That includes this group.
CBP says they don't know when the lanes will reopen and warn people traveling north of increased wait times because of the closures. In the meantime, military troops deployed along the border will be working to install concertina wire to harden the border.
We're helping to harden the border. So we're taking military engineers and helping to control access to the ports and deter access between the ports. We're providing medical support to take care of both military troops and CBP personnel.
They plan to be on the border until mid-December and stress they will not be enforcing immigration law. Additional CBP agents are also on standby if they're needed. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
Thousands of Central American migrants are still on the move. The first wave now reaching Tijuana at the California border, while other groups are heading towards southern Texas border. But the groups aren't going unnoticed as the U.S. military continues to track every move. Our CBS 11's Kim Molestina is at a port of entry in Donna, Texas, to see what U.S. troops are doing to prepare.
Well, good morning to you. We have made it down here to the Donna port of entry, the Donna base camp as it's being called, just outside of McAllen. And we know that U.S. military authorities as well as border authorities are keeping a very close eye on the direction in which the caravan is currently heading. But as you can see over my shoulder, the resources and the assets here at the Donna base camp, they remain in place despite the new information that at least some of the caravan members might be once again headed over to Tijuana. Now, U.S. troops here are staying in place, and as a matter of fact, they are beginning to expand their operations east of the Donna port of entry into areas like Weslaco and Brownsville. An additional 300 troops are now in this area. That brings the number to a total of about 1,300 troops just in this region alone. Now, later on today, we're going to be tagging along with some of these troops. We're going to get an up-close look at the work that they are doing in preparation should some or all of the caravan members try and make entry into the U.S. along this part of the border. Now, currently, they have been setting up infrastructure and barbed wire fencing to help further secure the border. Now, one thing that is important to point out in speaking with U.S. Army officials is that they are reiterating this idea that they are not out here to serve as Border Patrol agents or to enforce immigration laws. They are simply out here to be an extra set of eyes and ears for those Border Patrol agents and to provide extra resources should they need them. Of course, we're going to have more reports from this border region throughout the day. For now, we are at the Texas-Mexico border. I'm Ken Molestina, CBS 11 News.
Right now, military troops are fortifying the border in preparation of the migrant caravan, and lane closures at the San Ysidro port of entry are causing major backups for drivers coming into the U.S. 10 News reporter Laura Acevedo is showing us the sites of the barricades and the razor wire at the border right now.
And this is what it looks like at the San Ysidro port of entry. I wanted to direct your attention to those concrete barriers that have barbed wire on top of them. Earlier, troops were moving them further south down the lanes, essentially closer to the Mexican border. Now, Customs and Border Protection announced last night that they would be closing down 3 northbound lanes at the San Ysidro port of entry. That is of the more than 20 that they have, and also closing 1 lane at the Otay Mesa port of entry. Now, this comes after this morning, roughly 350 more migrants arrived at a soup kitchen in downtown Tijuana. There is still no word on when they plan on turning themselves in to ask for asylum. It is still unclear when these lanes will reopen, but according to the press release sent by Customs and Border Protection, they say they don't anticipate that they will be open anytime before the caravan arrives. Reporting in San Ysidro, Laura Acevedo, 10 News.
Meanwhile, there's more pushback against the president's order to stop caravans of migrants from crossing the U.S. border. Some members of Congress say spending hundreds of millions of dollars building up the border is a bad plan. As CBS 17's Anna Warnicki reports, some believe the money could be spent elsewhere.
As thousands of Central American migrants continue their trek to the U.S. border, the Trump administration has deployed more than 5,000 soldiers to assist the Border Patrol when the migrants arrive.
I don't think it's a proper use of resources.
Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar says the president's response is damage control. He says the president could have stopped the caravans before they even started.
We were given $750 million a year to help the 3 countries where the people are coming from.
Cuellar says Congress provided the State Department with hundreds of millions of dollars specifically to help the Central American countries improve conditions so that the migrants can stay at home.
The money is there. It's sitting. They have to get it down there.
Immigration attorney Bradley Jenkins says the countries in Central America need the help.
Organized crime and gangs are targeting families for extortion, for recruitment, and on the penalty of very extreme violence.
Jenkins says most of the migrants left their homes as a last resort. President Trump says he is unlikely to send more money to Central America until the countries stop migrants from leaving. Cuellar says the U.S. should stop sending threats and send help.
The more we do on security, the more we do on issues that they have, less people are going to come.
Defense Secretary James Mattis says he'll be at the border on Wednesday to check on the troops President Trump deployed to help Border Patrol. In Washington, Anna Warnicki, CBS 17 News.
In Tucson say they're expecting a big crowd. They say they're standing up for these migrant families.
We know that the caravan is largely women and children and families. They're tired, they're dehydrated, they're sick. We don't need an armed force, the strongest armed force in the world, to greet them at our doorstep.
Syra Liviere is a migrant herself. She crossed the border at just 8 years old. She's now a U.S. citizen, and she's the director of the Tucson nonprofit People's Defense Initiative.
As a migrant, I have spent a lot of my time trying to convince people that I'm a human and that I deserve to live free and safe.
They've organized a peaceful protest to show solidarity. Tucson Anti-War Committee member Jim Byrne says they want to send a message to the government.
We would want the troops to get off the border and the United States to proceed with accepting the caravan and its members as refugees and work through a legal process of pursuing asylum for them.
While many on the opposing side say the caravan should not be allowed in the U.S., Byrne says they deserve to be here.
It's the conditions that they're leaving. It's not just that they just can't find a job. By the time they get here, I don't think there's going to be that many people that we couldn't bring in. We routinely bring in tens of thousands of refugees from other parts of the world. Why is it we have a problem with this set?
Just days ago, President Trump wrote in a proclamation addressing the migration that the continuing and threatened mass migration of aliens with no basis for admission into the U.S. has precipitated a crisis and undermines the integrity of our borders.
Do you think these people are going to move into your house? They're going to be a drain?
Now to a story you'll only see on 4. A man says he ended up in the hospital because he was expressing his political beliefs leading up to last week's election.
Now, man says he was assaulted downtown while urging people to vote Republican while wearing a Make America Great Again hat. News 4 Tucson's Allie Potter has more.
Jonathan Sparks is passionate about his political beliefs, but he says those beliefs were attacked right here on Saturday night.
And oh, was it painful. My ankle was just hanging there.
As Sparks was walking downtown, a man attacked him from behind.
I felt a very strong grasp on my hat, and it pulled me back and grabbed a lot of hair. The assailant had jumped onto my ankle from behind. And so I, not knowing yet that my ankle was broken into 4 pieces, turned around to grab and take the hat back, and my hands latched onto the hat.
They both fell to the ground.
I heard the words Hitler and Nazi and Trump, and he was shouting things like that. And then he came over top of me, and he just over and over again, he hit me.
People nearby ran over and pulled the attacker off Sparks and held him until police arrived. Tucson police say he was arrested for assault.
I was making a statement that I personally believe that Donald Trump is a fantastic president of the United States. And I think intolerance to those ideologies was the flame.
Sparks says he feels things would be different if he was carrying an anti-Trump sign.
Or a rainbow sign, right. or I was a black guy, which I think there would be a sea of reporters here.
Sparks is now recovering from surgery after spending 20 hours in the hospital. He's had a lot of time to think about the assault.
I was attacked with a vengeance by an evil man, but you know what I learned? You know what God taught me through the whole thing? How wonderful Tucson is. Because there are people that I think pulled him off. There are paramedics that stayed with me. There is a police officer that protected me.
Reporting from downtown Tucson, Allie Potter, News 4 Tucson.